Good morning, students. So, in today's class, we are discussing about looping statements or iteration statements. Looping statements or iteration statements are used to repeat some statements based on some condition. Looping statements are used to create a block of code repeatedly based on a condition. So there will be a logical condition, and if that condition evaluates to true, then the code block will be executed. And if it is false, then the control will be exited from the loop. So the types of looping statements in C: for loop, while loop, and do while loop. There are three loops in C. They are the for loop, while loop, and do while loop. In for loop, the for loop is used when the number of iteration is known beforehand. That is, for how many times the loop has to be repeated, that is known in advance. The for loop is an example of an entry controlled loop. That is, the condition is checked first before entering into the loop. The second type of loop is the while loop. The while loop is used when the number of iterations is not known beforehand, but based on a condition. Here, the number of iteration is not known beforehand, but the repetition is done based on a condition. The while loop is also an entry control loop because the looping statements are repeated based on an initial condition checking. The third type of loop is the while loop, do while loop. The do while loop is similar to the while loop, but it will execute the statements at least once, even if the condition is false. So the do while loop is an exit control loop. The looping statements will be executed at least once, then only the condition is checked. First, we will look at the for loop in detail. The syntax of the for loop consists of three things: the initialization statement, the test expression or the condition, and the update expression. The initialization expression, this is an expression to initialize the loop control variables. The second one is the test expression or the condition. Here the loop continues as long as the condition is true. The third is the update expression, an expression to update the loop control variables. So this is the syntax of a for loop. For initialization expression, semicolon, condition, semicolon, then the update expression. Then within these curly braces, we write the statements that should be repeated. This is the flow chart of the for loop. Initialization expression, test expression. If it evaluates to true, the loop body will be executed. Then the update expression is executed, and again the condition will be checked, and this process repeats. Once the test expression evaluates to false, the control will be exited from the loop. The for loop execution starts with the initialization statement. The initialization statement is used to initialize any variables, and it is going to execute only once. Once the initialization is completed, the condition is evaluated. If the condition returns true, then the body of the for loop will be executed. Once the body of the for loop is executed, for loop will execute the update statement where we usually increment or decrement the control variable. Once the update step is completed, the for loop will check the condition again. If it is evaluated to true, the body of the for will be executed, followed by the update statement. The above step will continue until the condition evaluates returns false. Once the condition becomes false, then the for loop will terminate and the program comes out of the for loop. So the syntax is for initialization, condition, and update. So let us look at an example, a simple program to print the numbers from 1 to 10. So in the main, we declare a variable I, and in the for loop of 4, I is equal to 1. The initialization expression is I is equal to 1. The starting value of the I is initialized to 1. Then the condition is checked, that is whether I is less than 11. If I is less than 11, then this step will be repeated. That is printf percentage d I. So 1 will be printed. Then again, update expression will be executed. So plus plus I, that is I becomes 2. Then condition will be checked. So 2 less than 11, the condition is true. So printf percentage di. So 2 will be printed. Then again, I is incremented to 3. 3 is less than 11. So 3 will be printed and this process goes on. Now suppose I reaches 10. So 10 is less than 11. So 10 will be printed. Then I will be incremented to 11. 11 less than 11. The condition is false. So the control will be exited from this loop and comes out of the for loop. So we get the output like this: 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10. So this is the end of the for loop. Thank you.